From the farthest reaches of our galaxy come the outer spacemen by color forms. That's funny. Until the finished samples arrived from the farthest reaches of Hong Kong, no one at Color Forms, except Harry Kislevitz and myself, even knew they existed. Surprise, they're here! 7 posable figures representing astronauts from 7 planets in our solar system. Little did we realize at the time that they were the first wave of a mighty force that would invade and conquer the toy industry, and in time become known as Boys Action Figures. They were led by Alpha 7, a little green man from Mars. He was the smallest and most popular of the group, and sold for only $1, which was a magic price in 1968. Color Forms was afraid of Colossus Rex, the giant from the giant planet Jupiter, because they had to charge $2 for him. Each one was packaged along with some sort of weapon on a card that featured actual photographs taken on their home planet, my loft. Before 1968, there had been only G.I. Joe and Captain Action. They were essentially dress-up dolls for boys. Then along came a new size figure, Major Matt Mason. Like other boys' figures, he was more or less on his own. You could take him to explore the surface of the moon or the backyard sandbox, but there was nothing there. That's how the outer spacemen came about. They were visibly intended to be used with Matt Mason. My first impulse was to make them his adversaries, but bad guy toys had never been done before. I remember growing up during the Second World War, when all games were war games. Even then, the only toy soldiers you could buy were American troops. I don't know if it was fear or wisdom that made me decide that the outer spacemen should simply be astronauts, like Matt Mason, but from different planets, and let the kid decide if they were friend or foe. I'd say this guy was definitely a friend. By the way, that globe emerging from the cotton balls of Venus was actually the lamp off our coffee table. And the 2 astronauts seen in the distance are right here in my hand. And here's the complete set of the 7 original outer spacemen, mint on the original cards. And here's the actual epoxy models from which the line was created and can be recreated. The arms were all sculpted in an outstretched position to accommodate the straight wires, which in the finished product could be bent into all sorts of interesting and natural-looking positions. Because of cost and shrinkage, previous bendable figures were always scrawny. We overcame this problem by creating blow-molded inner cores. Here's my only set of unblistered cards from which new cards can be generated. And here's something I found just the other day, the original drawings from which the first series was begun. I hadn't seen them for 30 years. I forgot that I had worked the colors out right from the start, and I'm amazed how close they are to the finished product. They certainly underline the fact that Matt Mason was our intended Earth astronaut. In fact, here he is in person, actually mounted on the comparative size board. And what was really amusing to me after 30 years was to see long forgotten sketches of figures not chosen for the group. I can see why. What do you think? Series 2. Harry and I were so sure we were going to be successful that before Series 1 was even introduced, I began work on Series 2. I thought they were a lot better than the first. I'd gained confidence working on the first series, and this time around I was a lot more adventuresome. I thought the second series were more creative, more complex, more exciting, they had more equipment, and some of them were pretty awesome. They even had features years ahead of their time. The man from Mercury's head lit up. And Metamorpho's face, distorted by a lens in his helmet, transformed into 3 different identities: nice, naughty, and horrid. And back again. Gamma X, the man from the fourth dimension, confounded perception with a multifaceted, multi-level body that double reflected in a mirrored backplate. And for good measure, he glowed in the dark. Here's the epoxy masters for the second series, everything necessary to recreate them. Hong Kong sends 6 sets of finished samples for our approval. This is the last set that remains intact today. In 1969, man landed on the moon, and surprise, there was nothing there. The entire world lost interest on the spot. One giant step for mankind proved to be 1 foot in the grave for space toys. Overnight, the toy industry declared space to be a dirty word. We quickly changed the name from Outer Spacemen to the World of the Future, in a last-ditch desperate attempt to disassociate them with space. But color firms ultimately chickened out and never placed an order for the second series. Here's the package back showing all the characters in Series 1. And here's the same for Series 2. These were painted by Bob Engler, who was at the time the cover editor for Newsweek magazine. I also designed a series of 13 Hot Wheels-sized vehicles based on our guys, each with a tiny figure driving it. These are Hong Kong's first rough clay models based on our drawings. They lay unpainted in my basement for over 20 years. Until about 10 years ago, I devised a method for creating unusual metallic colors using inks over silver and painted them. They were submitted to Mattel, who didn't care for them. But judging from the line of candy-colored Hot Wheels they introduced the following year, I guess they liked the colors. Had the Outer Spacemen continued, we planned to do the superheroes next. Instead, Mego did them a few years later, and the rest is history. How the Outer Spacemen became a collectible and the second series a fabled legend, for a handful of collectors the holy grail of action figures, is another story for another time. Oh, I nearly forgot. I have the 16mm print of the original TV commercial, and for that matter, lots of other stuff that would prove invaluable if someone wished to recreate the line, not the least of which is me. I can draw a lot better now than 30 years ago. And although I would no longer care to do it all alone, I'd be more than willing to help. The following is a short film in which you can meet the producer of this tape.